So, hello and welcome to another weekly Spielworxx chat. And for the first time ever, we have a guest here, Ben Maddox. Ben, how are you?
I'm all right, Uli, thank you. It's very hot here, and because I'm doing this, I'm indoors, and it's a beautiful sunny day, and you've made me sit indoors, Uli. Thank you very
I
much.
so that was my idea. So Ben, of course, is running 5 games for Doomsday, and if you do not know that site, do yourself a favor and check it out. So it's really worthwhile.
I mean,
And
frankly, just go to the Patreon, back the Patreon. I don't care if you listen to the stuff. I just want your money.
Yeah, that's the attitude here. That's the,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
attitude. And before we'll start with Ben, I'll have just a few Spielworxx news. So we will record and probably live stream a Vessel Grand Trunk Journey game on Friday at 11 a.m. EDT or 5 p.m. CET. So if we just have to record it, so not live stream it, I'll add it to my YouTube channel on Saturday. And the cost pre-orders, they will start in early July, as I mentioned last week. And I will have more news soon. And note that you can already play the game online if you own the tabletop simulator software. And also next week, I will have news on the 10 years of Spielworxx sale that is going to happen. But now to the interesting part, back to Ben and our topic for today.
I think you're
Uh,
overselling the interesting part, but carry on.
Tabletop gaming journalism. And of course, this is a huge topic, and and I don't want to change the length of the show here. So we are running for 35 minutes, and of course, this means that we hardly can scratch the surface of this topic, but hopefully, at least, we can make you think about it a little bit, and then everything is fine. And as usual, if there is time at the end, we will respond to any questions that you may have. And if we run out of time, I will definitely get back to the questions in a later show. And hopefully then without ban, so which improves it a lot.
500% at least.
um, so, Ben, let me start with a question for you. Is there tabletop gaming journalism at all, in your
Well,
opinion?
I know your opinion on this because you've spoken to me about this before, and I think you and me might disagree a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're of the opinion there basically isn't any,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're kind of right. Except I think it. I mean, it depends what is journalism, right? But I
Yes.
think there are some really good people out there doing some really
Yes.
good work, generally in the written arena. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got Space Biff, who's really good.
Yes.
You've got Matt Thrower, who's
Mm-hmm.
really good. And Matt Thrower goes over into sort of war games and stuff as well. They're really good. But what I think is the fundamental issue
Mm-hmm.
is there seems to be very little appetite for the good stuff. So
Yes.
if you look, there's no real. I think shut up and sit down aside. There's no real, and me, of course, there's no real intense sort of criticism and discussion about what games are for. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of it is a buyer's guide. So,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
when you have a review, it's not criticism. People talk about, oh, it's terrible criticism. It's not criticism. It's a buyer's guide. It's should I go out and buy this game? And I think that is fine
Mm-hmm.
and useful. And I
Yes.
sometimes watch the Dice Tower just to see, but you're not getting any criticism there. You're not getting any insight into what the nature of gaming is, what impact it has on the wider world, why gaming is important, is gaming an art form? All of those really interesting things that people who are really into it want to talk about. So, is there journalism? Yeah, for sure. Tabletop Wire is another example.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They have little bulletins. That's proper news too. Yes, there is. Is there any sort of good criticism? Is there any sort of really thinking about games as an art form as opposed to a consumer product to buy? There's less of that, I would say, right?
Yes. So that was a good response. And of course, I'm generalizing. And I think, and as you mentioned, that there is not no that there is no gaming journalism, but really very few good ones. And of course, Dan, so Space Biff and Matt Thrower, they are excellent.
Yeah.
So, but why are there Ben? Why are there so many bias guides? Why is there not more of the Space Biff part? Or why aren't we looking into different topics? Why are there so many lists of the most popular games? What do you think?
You've got to look at the you've got to look at the way board game media is structured, right? So there's no board game supplement in the Times. There's no board game supplement in the Guardian. There's no 5-minute board game supplement on the CNN nightly bulletin. There's none of this, right? All the people that are producing stuff are hobbyists. Very few of them are journalists. So, and you know, for all of Tom Vassel's, undoubted work ethic and amiability, he's not a journalist. No. His review style, which I think, for me personally, is the antithesis of interesting, has been very, very successful for him. And you've seen basically Tom Vassell babies all through the gaming world, especially YouTube. So it's all that structure of explain the rules for 75% of the review and then talk about maybe a little bit of strategy at the end, and at the end say, I loved it, right? That's not reviewing a game. That's and that's been the model. And why? Is because if you're a trained journalist, why would you go into board game media? There's no way to get paid, right? Yeah. There's no organization that's going to, I mean, apart from Owen Duffy at The Guardian, and he doesn't even work at The Guardian doing board game stuff anymore, really. So, I mean, how are you going to work? How are you going to get paid? You're not going to make any decent money. So what's happening is it's people doing it as a hobby, treating it as a hobby. And then you've got to look at the motivation. You've got to look, why are people doing it? And I don't think people are doing it to produce great criticism. I think mostly people are doing it to get thumbs and likes and free games, right?
Yeah, it is what it is. And I think this is really a major motivation for gaming bloggers, video bloggers. But why aren't we, now if I'm saying we are consumers, now gaming consumers, not publishers or content creators, whatever, why aren't we demanding more? So why is it that so many people, so many gamers are happy with this format? Is it because they don't know anything else? Or is this really the modern stuff? You can consume it so easily and you don't have to think about it So what do you think, Ben?
Well, I think partly. So someone compared me the other day, without blowing my own trumpet. I can't do that. If I could blow my own trumpet,
definitely you can't do this at all. So
no, I wouldn't leave the house if I could. But someone compared my show to Radio 4. And if people don't know what Radio 4 is, Radio 4 is the BBC spoken word channel. It's got a reasonably highbrow, reasonably serious. Radio 4 has a tenth of the listening figures of Radio 2, which is the sort of very middle of the road, standard sort of entertainment-y radio station. So firstly, if you're looking at sort of, for want of a better term, serious stuff, there's a smaller audience for that anyway, right? Just by the nature of the thing. Secondly...
Oh, I think we lost you, Ben, here. So, Ben, are you still with us?
Properly produced... I'm still here? I'm still going. I'm just going to go regardless.
So, no, but maybe you have to repeat the last 10 seconds over here. So,
okay, so think about Netflix and think about YouTube, right? You go to Netflix to watch well-produced, well-written, well-made, expensive, prestige television. Think about what you go to YouTube for. You go to YouTube to watch disposable crap done by people in their bedrooms.
Yeah.
You don't go to YouTube to watch this super deep, intense stuff. Now, that may just be because not many people are doing it on YouTube. But I can't tell you the amount of emails I get when I release a review. Not every review, but I get it every so often. And depending on what side of the bed I've got on out on that day, my reaction is different. But a lot of people go, "Oh my God, this isn't a review. I don't know the rules from listening to this."
Yeah.
And it sometimes drives me up the bloody wall, right? Because I don't think a review of a game should be about teaching the rules, but that is the precedent that's been set.
Yeah.
And as the industry matures, as it becomes more professional, you will see, and you are seeing. If you look at what Rodney Smith's doing on his channel with like Matthew Jews
Yeah.
at the moment, you're seeing an uptick in quality. You're seeing it, but at the moment, it's all very much in the entertainment arena.
Yeah.
Later on, you will get sort of the more serious stuff, the more critical stuff, and that's coming. People are talking about stuff, but mostly people are going on Twitter to prove how great they are because
Of
they're
course, that's
appalled
why
by
I'm there.
something.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're so appalled by something in a game because outright outrage gets you a pat on the back.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not going to the long form written piece. They're not going to the long form lecture piece. But that will come, I guess, as the industry matures. If it is wiped out by Corona.
Yeah, if there are outlets for the long, well-written pieces, of course,
Right.
getting back again to Space Biff, to Dan, he now has his own outlet for the written pieces. But for
Right.
several others, it's impossible because, as you mentioned, newspapers hardly have any part for a written gaming review, and it's very difficult to do this. And but you mentioned reviews briefly,
Yeah.
Ben. So, in your opinion, what makes a good review? What is a good review? And let's at this moment not say a written review because we can say a review in general. It could be
Yeah.
on your channel or it could be a written piece. So what is, in your opinion, necessary?
Well, depends what you're looking at, right? Are you
Mm.
looking at a buying guide? Are you looking at a piece of criticism? And I think they're two different things. One is talking about the content of the art itself. One is a recommendation to your readers or your listeners or your watchers or your viewers. Both have value, absolutely. I am very much. This isn't the first time I've said this, but I think reviews are there to promote restraint. They
Mm-hmm.
are not there to
Mm-hmm.
promote consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this big problem at the moment with, are people too positive? Well, yes, they're too positive because they turn on a faucet of free games and they worry that if they say something bad about the games they've received for free, that faucet is going to be turned off. And this is why, being the film critic for The Guardian, it doesn't matter if you write a negative review because
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Guardian aren't going to fire you for writing a
Yeah.
negative review. That's your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're an independent person, the only way to sort of get the fuel for your content, which is goodwill with publishers, games from publishers, there's a feeling you have to keep them on side. I think it's a hiding to nothing. I think decent professional publishers should expect it,
Yeah.
right? They should expect that it's a possibility you're going to say something bad. But a review is there to stop people buying games, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
It's for someone to watch it and go, oh, okay, maybe it's not as good as I imagined it to be. It's about restraint, it's not about consumption.
Yeah, interesting. This is an interesting point. I've never thought about this, but I agree that it's definitely not for more consumption, but for restraint. Interesting, really interesting here. And of course, just for the record, Ben did last year a very negative review of Auf der Walz. So
I think
then
it's
I
very
stopped.
negative, was it?
And then I immediately stopped sending him
Yeah,
free
absolutely.
games. So that
It
that
wasn't
was the
it wasn't
end.
stopping the free games that bothered me. It's the fact that he punched me in the face afterwards. That was the issue. That was the problem I had. It was the violence.
Yes. So yeah, but I think there is a lot of improvement, or there can be a lot of improvement, and we'll see some improvement made. But of course, we also have to see that although board games are there for thousands of years, but modern gaming is a very new thing. And journalists or bloggers are there only for a short period of time. Maybe we are just all kids here in this here, and we have to grow up, and maybe in a couple of years there will be more stuff and more variable stuff. So maybe we just have the bias lists, but more in depth. What I'm missing, Ben, is more parts about distribution, how distribution goes, how companies are doing in terms of where they pay taxes, where they produce. Is it good to produce in China? Should we do so? About fair payment in some larger companies. What is fair payment? But of course, it could be that the people who need to do these pieces, that they need to really go into these topics, which of course is a lot harder than to review the next game that is coming out, that came in the last day. Or how do you see this, Ben?
It's a fundamental thing, isn't it? It's payment. Mm-hmm. It comes simply down to that. If you want an in-depth piece into working conditions in China, or we were talking about a publisher we're not going to name on here for fear of being sued, that has questionable hiring practices, right?
Yeah.
If you want an in-depth piece on that, it requires an incredible amount of research. Yeah. It requires an incredible amount of time. What it requires is a professional journalist. Now, there isn't an outlet or a publication who's going to do that. I mean, conceivably, an independent person could do it with the right amount of Patreon money or Kickstarter money. But then again, what if they publish an article and a Chinese game manufacturer decide to sue them? How are they going to deal with legal costs? All of this sort of thing. Until you get the backing of a proper organization, a newspaper, something like that, you're just not going to get those kind of pieces because people aren't being paid enough to do it. Why would a professional journalist go into board gaming when there's no money? I mean, and there's no money, right? I mean, that's the fundamental issue. And people, because everyone creating content almost is a hobbyist, is basically not getting paid. A lot of people get very sniffy and say, well, you shouldn't do it for the money, you should do it for the love. And there's no publishers in the board game industry, or very few, that are doing it for the love. They're doing it for the money. It's the same with board game artists.
Of course.
Graphic designers. You don't go to a graphic designer and say, hey, you love games, do my game for free. No.
Yeah, some publishers, even these days, they try it. You just send me some sample pieces, and maybe we take you, and if not, we have the pieces. So it's or we will present it on our website. So it's still, but yeah, it's also a small industry, but it's still an industry in all regards, and people need.
But I mean, look at you, right? Pardon? Look at you, right? Take you for an example, right? Small industry, and you're a small publisher, right, in the grand scheme of things, right? Yes. But you don't do it for free.
No, of course not.
You don't expect Harold Liska to do it for free,
no,
right?
No.
You don't expect Jason Dinger or Robin Lees to do it for free. There is a question here that's not being asked, and that is about money.
Yes.
And that is about being paid. And it's not about making millions. It never is. But it's about having the time to be diligent, to be good, to be able to do things. And the only way you can do that is if you don't have a job. How the bloody hell Stefan Feld manages to design 1 million games a year and be a full-time teacher, I absolutely have no idea. Yeah. But he's a freak, right? Most people, to do really good work, need a lot of time. So if you look at me, and I wouldn't say it's really good work necessarily, no, it is, believe me. But I've been doing lots of stuff on the corona and in speaking to people in the industry and all of that sort of stuff over the corona thing. The only reason I was able to do that is because the coronavirus meant that I had a lot of time at home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
with nothing better to do, right? So that offered me the time, but you can't rely on a worldwide pandemic to produce good work from an industry. You need to pay people,
Yeah.
and that's the fundamental issue when it comes down to it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. I think we will go to a couple of questions which I am seeing here. But before that, when are you doing, Ben? When are you doing your top five lists then? So I'm always missing them. So of the latest top five games. So when is this happening at Five Games for Doomsday?
Well, to be honest, Uli, what I did was when I formulated this idea for a podcast, is I took the idea of a top five list and I just made it a little bit more fancy, basically. Because people love him, love them. I'm getting into video soon, and part of my Patreon thing was I'll do my top 50 games and I'll do them on video. And I was supposed to do them a couple of months ago, but I have a computer that is currently stranded in New York because the computer I have at the moment I couldn't edit video on,
Uh-huh.
and I'm getting that computer soon. So I'm gonna do it soon. Why not pander to the people?
Yeah.
If it's I don't need to do good stuff. I need to do stuff that makes me money.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So before we go to questions, here a couple of questions. So we agree that there is some gaming journalism,
Sure.
but it's very on very different levels. In a pretty young industry and in a pretty small industry that does not pay well. Is this so what
Well,
we agree on, or is there
yes,
anything you would like to add?
yes, but there is something I would like to. So you have people like Tom Vassell,
Mm-hmm.
who, whether you like Tom Vassell or not, one thing you can't deny is his integrity.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is not a man who is being bought by companies to deliver
Yes.
positive stuff, right? He always, right from the beginning, has always been very clear. I mean, I don't even know why it's a bloody question. Should you do negative reviews? Of course you should do negative reviews if the game's not very good, you moron!
Yeah.
I wrote a piece on it. You should listen. I'm addressing the listeners here. But I mean, what you Tom Vassell, you can't doubt his integrity. Shut up and sit down. You can't doubt their integrity.
Yes.
Space Biff, Matt Thrower, these people, they're great, right? And on the other hand, what you have is a lot of people who are either openly, and I think openly is fine, or kind of surreptitiously not doing reviews but doing marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that is a problem.
Yeah.
When you have a lot, if you go on to, so you have the sort of how to play thing, which is great.
Yeah.
Lots of people are doing how to play videos now, and they're useful. But then you have a lot of people doing reviews, and they are suspiciously absent of any content and suspiciously absent of any criticism. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have reviews, you have criticism, and then you have marketing.
Yeah.
And people who are open and say, you know, this company has paid me to say great things about their game, that's fine. I have no issue with that. I mean,
right.
it wouldn't be something I would choose to do. I think you lose your soul to some degree. But there are those who aren't open necessarily about that, and they're working as essentially a marketing firm, but aren't declaring it. That's problematic.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So let's see. Let me here scroll back and see if we have something. I see a couple of familiar faces here or lines which I can connect to. Faces. Yeah, somebody also mentions Owen Duffy. Yes, you mentioned him as well. Marcus, hello Marcus. You can easily get an opinion of a game yourself. Yes. I use board game media to inform myself, not to get an opinion. So, and I guess, Marcus, you mean that you want to see the contents of a game or know something about the mechanisms, and then you form your opinion that this is something that you like because it's worker placement, and you like worker placement, or you don't like it because it's not worker placement. Yes, I'm doing the same thing, and I guess everybody is doing this. We watch videos and see what the game is all about, or is a graphic style something. And he also mentions maybe like reviews of films. If I'm interested, I don't really care about a critic's opinion. Yes, of course, if you just follow the critics 100%, you may miss something.
This is a fundamental
Yeah.
misinterpretation of what these things are for, though.
Okay, yeah.
If you read great film criticism, you read great music criticism, it's not about it's not about disagreeing or agreeing. It's not about even caring or not caring.
Yeah.
What it is about reading a rippingly good piece of writing
Yes.
on something that you're passionate about. That's actually what they're there for. That's why my focus is on making the reviews a good piece of writing first and foremost. Hopefully they're good criticism too, but what they're there for is they're not, if you go and watch, I often read reviews after I've seen a movie just to see what people say. And I know what my opinion of the film is because I just watched the film, right? But you read good reviewers like Peter Bradshaw, for instance. The writing's so bloody good. The piece is so entertaining. That's what they're there for, as much as telling you something. Do you care about their opinions? No. Should you care that they could put a really entertaining sentence together? Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, although in my regular newspaper here for movie critics, I know a couple of the writers by name only, and for some I know I like when they like a movie, it's very likely that I like that movie as well. With some others, I'm saying no. But of course, this does not mean that I'm not liking their writing style or the written piece. So this could be something. Sometimes I'm laughing aloud when I'm reading some of their critics, but not because I think it's stupid, because it's so well written. So yeah. So next question: do you think that journalism in the industry has a better chance of growing because of COVID and lockdown, bringing more people into the industry as customers? The New York Times published its own PMP games last week. I did not know this, that the New York Times did this. So what do you think, Ben? Yeah.
Again, I hate to be repetitive. It's all about fundamentally paying someone to do good work, right? So until the sort of funding stream is changed, it's hard because if you look at the series I did, and I'll go back to it because someday someone may listen to it on the COVID thing and interviewing, and you're going to be on it this week, interviewing people about that. That's interesting, and it's interesting what people have got to say about it, but that was a matter of me emailing people and then interviewing them and editing it and putting it up. If I wanted to do a proper written 30-minute piece, I'm going to need to be paid for that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Hopefully, what's going to bring really good journalism into gaming is gaming becoming really significant. It happened with computer games, right?
Yeah.
And you have really good journalists in computer games, and then you have people saying, okay, we'll pay you to create really good work. And it's that mixture of someone who's really into games but is actually a really good writer and is a really good journalist. When those people end up having an outlet for their work, then you will find that will snowball and you'll get really good work. And I hope that as gaming matures, the thing is, it's interesting. I don't think games mature. I think we've had great games for 30 years.
Yeah.
But it's all of the stuff around it, the publishing, the production, and also the sort of media is in a process of maturation. And once that happens, you get good stuff in it.
Yeah. I have one more question here from Pini. So hello to Israel.
I'm not answering Pinny's question. I refuse. He's a deplorable human being.
No, he's actually a very nice person. So has board game journalism turned into what it is because of the sheer amount of games being published every year? So before you answer, Ben, my take is no. I would say no. It doesn't have anything to do with the with the sheer number of games out there, but maybe you see it differently, Ben.
I don't think it has. No, people want free games, and journalism has become what it is because people don't want to stop
Yeah,
the avenue of free games.
yeah,
And, you know, saying bad things about a publisher's game probably means you're not going to get free games, right?
yeah,
And I think that's why we are where we are
yeah.
with a lot of it.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, Pini is responding, Ben, that he loves you. So that is maybe a good
Well, well, then he
finishing
knows
thought
what
for
it is
this
to have
show.
unrequited love, doesn't he?
Yes. Um, so maybe this was something that at least makes you think about gaming, or not the core of gaming, but at least bloggers, journalists, or however you call them. They are important, and maybe we see something in the next couple of years that is very much needed, in my opinion, to further grow the industry, to grow the hobby. Because I think we not only need more players, but people who can, in an intelligent way, write pieces and write interesting pieces. So,
Well, just finish. I mean,
final word here.
there's always a call for new gamers, right? We need more people in the hobby, and as a grumpy old man, oh, I don't care about new people in the hobby. I just want my game group so we
Yeah,
can sit down and play heavy Euro games and not talk to each other for 2 hours and then go home, right? But in reality, the more varied the audience, the more diverse the people in the hobby,
yes,
the more that will start to happen. The more people will start to produce stuff that interests them. And people go, oh, diversity. Diversity is fantastic because the more diversity you have, the more chance you have of having people who are talented in different areas, not
absolutely.
just the manipulation of mechanics into a great game.
Absolutely. That was a great last word here. And so, for everybody, thank you for your time. And if you would like to see a special topic covered here, discussed, or have a specific question that you would like to see me respond to in a later show, just drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. And next week we will have, by the way, another guest, and this is a real improvement over
I
Ben.
mean,
This
I
is
mean,
Tony
you could.
Boydell. So next week we will have
To,
Tony
to,
here.
Tony is an improvement,
Bleibt
no
gesund.
question. No question.